Hello, my name is Dan Johnson and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about the Big Finish releases of 2022 and which ones were the best. It's quite a challenging thing because this year I have been quite religious with my purchase of Big Finish products. There are definitely series that stand out to me as being better than the rest, and then a few that I think were subpar. But in no particular order, I'm going to pick out my favourites, and I suppose in many respects recommend them to you going into 2023. But I mean, there is so much coming out in 2023, I think you'll just be sticking with that stuff. Let's start off with my first release of the year, and that was 40. And 40 came in two parts, and it celebrates the 40th anniversary of the Fifth Doctor. And overall, I think it was a series that worked very well. Part one has two stories, a story with Cybermen on Telos, and then you have a second story in this box set, which is called God of War with the Ice Warriors. Both quite enjoyable stories, nothing special, but decent enough. But what really made me like this series, and why I put it on the list, was 42. 42 is a 6-part epic starring the Brigadier, the Masters, Autons, Chameleon. It's mental. And I really enjoyed this one. But I initially thought I'd just put it on as just this one set here. But I decided to put them both on because they feel like a nice package together. Plus the artwork for these is absolutely glorious. This feels like such a long time ago, but it was only February when the release of Old Friends was released. They kept the Cybermen hidden, but when it came out, there was a big Cyberman 2-parter with the Brigadier and the bloke from Unit, played by Warren Brown. I really enjoyed the epic scale of that story, and therefore I'd really recommend it for a lot of people. And having the Ninth Doctor meet the Cybermen again, a big full invasion story, was just a treat to listen to. The first story I was also really partial to, and that was called Fond Farewell, talking about loss and grief and bringing people back, and whether that was really the right decision to make. And next is also a conclusion, and that is the conclusion to Stranded. So Stranded started in 2020, I think, in fact, and I think it may have even started before the pandemic, but it got massively pushed back. And it concluded in March of this year. And I think that it was lovely to see this very experimental, bonkers series get a very good send-off and a good final box set. I don't think it's probably as good as the second box set, which is my favourite of the lot, but overall I did really enjoy it, and I love how at the end of the story, well, actually no, that's spoilers, we'll keep that hidden. But they did some very clever things with it, is what I'm going to say. And then in the May of that year, the Ninth Doctor returned again with a second series called Back to Earth. Now this continues this sort of one-off sort of episodes, and they're all very contained within themselves, etc. There are little hints to other things, but you don't need to buy all of the box sets to really understand it, which is a nice refreshing change. Although in the future, as many people have said, the Ninth Doctor does deserve to have an arc, a story based on more than just individual episodes. But I've got carried away. I really enjoyed the first episode, which was called Station to Station, with a good surrogate companion. But then my favourite, I think, of the lot, and maybe even my favourite of the series, was Old Man's Eye. That's not the name of it. Old Dang Eye. What? The song that you sing on New Year's. That's my favourite. Because it's a very cool timey-wimey episode where each decade, or each year of a decade in the 90s, the Doctor visits this house with this family that go there each year, and the way that story is written, and the sort of emotional centre to that, and how each time something is slightly different over the passage of time, I think worked incredibly well. So that's probably my favourite, and therefore this is why this release is on the list. For the next ones, I've decided to pick them up as a duo, and these are the 6 Doctor adventures that they've released this year, with Hebe Harrison as the companion, played by Ruth Madeley, who is brilliant. And she's the first wheelchair user to be a companion. She's also going to be in the 60th anniversary specials this year. So she's a companion that I've really been drawn towards for whatever reason. I loved her portrayal, I loved her character. I think that her stories, particularly in the first episodes, are brilliant, and I love them. I think they're great. And for someone that didn't really like the Sixth Doctor last year, or the year before now. This year going into, or last year going into these episodes with the Sixth Doctor's really made me love this range, and it's been teased that she's going to be returning again for some more adventures with the Sixth Doctor in the future, and they should be really exciting. I didn't feature the second episode on its own because they're very different. This one made me really love the adventures that they were going on. They were sort of whimsical, a little bit silly. I thought they worked incredibly well. Hebe Harrison's amazing. And then this one gets very dark. The only issue I have with these two sets is that some of the episodes feel quite repetitive. We're investigating this organization kind of thing, and they're up to what we thought they were up to in the first place. So if you're interested in a more darker Doctor Who, then I think this would be very good for you. Oh yeah, and Waterworlds has a song, like an actual song. There's a song in the trailer for Waterworlds. It was bonkers. My next release is a release that I think is probably one of those big sort of fantasies that people have when they think about Doctor Who episodes they love to see. And it's part of the Out of Time series, and the most recent instalment was called Wink, with the Sixth Doctor, David Tennant, and the Weeping Angels. And once again, it was absolutely splendid to listen to, a treat, in fact. The way that they deal with the Weeping Angels in audio is really interesting, and the dynamic between the Sixth Doctor and the 10th Doctor is brilliant. Honestly, I'd really recommend this story to somebody that hasn't listened to a lot of Big Finish. In fact, I'd recommend the entire series. Out of Time 1 is splendid. He's making quite a lot of appearances this year. It's the 9th Doctor again, with his second set of his second series, and this is entitled Into the Stars. Once again, I've only got one episode that I truly recommend. The Sontaran episode is really, really fun. There's an episode about sort of ogre creatures, like a space casino, which is quite interesting, but didn't really work for me. But I really enjoyed the third story entitled Break the Ice. It was very much an action-adventure story set around Christmas time, with Jack Frost as the villain. I remember when I was listening to the story and I was walking home, I think from work or wherever, and as I was doing so, this beautiful scene came on, the music was blaring, and I just was walking all the way home smiling because I was really enjoying the story, and that's when I realised this is one of my favourites of the year. So that's probably one of the best stories, but I think one of the best releases of the year is this set here. It's called Geronimo. It's the brand new set of 11th Doctor adventures with Jacob Dudman playing the main character and a new companion played by Stafia Ingar. We have 3, I think, almost faultless stories. They're simply incredibly enjoyable. The third one I absolutely adored. It's a big action adventure story. So love this set, and I can't wait to see where it goes this year. You may think that the 8th Doctor is completed for the year with the release of Stranded, but no, they decided to bring out 2 box sets at the end of the year with Liv and Helen, featuring the Daleks, the Weeping Angels, and basically the point of the series was these guys have had such huge adventures that have been spanning 16 episodes. Let's give them some smaller stories where they get to face bonkers things without being so drawn in by all the exposition and the arc stuff that they've had to do in the past, and all these Time Lords, for example. So we have, in this set, we have Paradox of the Daleks, which was an amazing 2-part story full of paradoxes and sort of going back on yourself, really enjoyable. And then in the second set, the highlight is Albie's Angels, which focuses a lot on Helen and her character, and particularly her brother, as he's obviously pursued by a weeping angel. Overall, I think they've been very clever with these 2 sets because I found them incredibly character-driven, very focused on emotions, but also very big adventure stories. So in terms of Doctor Who, I think this is almost pinnacle. And so that's the end of my batch for 2022. 23 promises to be a bonkers year with the 60th anniversary, Torchwood return, as well as Doctors having their own box sets. It's a very exciting time to be a Doctor Who fan, and I may need to be slightly more reserved with the sets that I buy, but that 60th anniversary series is something that I've really, really got my eye on. If I may talk about the channel for a second, I intend to do this year 1 podcast episode and 1 video as a minimum each month. The podcasts will always be on the 5th of the month, and then the video shall appear some Friday within that time. So I think that's quite a doable challenge for myself in terms of consistency. And with a lot of stuff coming out, I hope to get more videos out so I can talk about news, etc. And it should be a really, really good year. But then again, they thought that about 2020. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you give it a like, subscribe if you're new, and I shall see you soon. Goodbye.